Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the After the Show, hosted by Jen Baldwin with Conference Keeper and the In-Depth Genealogist, and Terri O'Connell, also with the In-Depth Genealogist. Terri has muted herself this evening. She is coughing, and we don't want her to make it worse and sound yucky. So she won't be speaking with us this evening, but we do have a couple of extra panelists tonight, and we're hoping that we can have a really great conversation. We just finished watching Who Do You Think You Are? And all I ever saw was Bazinga the whole time. It was a great episode. I think everybody agrees it was an excellent way to end the season. So we're just going to jump right in. I'll have everybody introduce themselves. I already introduced Terri, and she's going to handle our cameraman work tonight. Right, Terri? Nod your head. Yes. I'll try to ask you yes or no questions. And then we'll start with Tammy. And if you could introduce yourself, Tammy.
Sure. I'm Tammy Hepps. I'm the creator of treelines.com, which is a website for sharing the best family stories from your family tree. I'm here in New York, also suffering from a cold, but I think a little bit not quite as bad as Terri, so hopefully I can manage not to cough and sneeze and sniffle too much.
I hope so. Hope you feel better soon, too.
Thanks.
Shannon?
Hi, I'm Shannon Bennett from TNT Family History. I also write for the In-Depth Genealogist. I'm located here in Northern Virginia and can't wait to talk about the episode tonight. It was a really good one.
Excellent. Michelle, how are you doing on your sound? Nothing? Okay, well, Michelle's in the middle in the red shirt there, and we can't hear her. But she says hi. We're hoping that we can get that fixed so she can be part of the conversation. And then next to her is Laura, and Laura's still not active as well, right? She also is having sound issues tonight, so hopefully that she can get that fixed as well. And look, we have all these new people joining. This is fantastic. Sarah, are you up with us? And we also can't hear you, Sarah. So see if you can adjust your settings just a little bit, and we'll see if we can come back to you. Cheryl, how about you? Are you on? Nope, not quite. Okay, and then finally Beth. Beth, are you ready to go? No, it doesn't look like it. Not quite. Can't hear you, Beth, so when you're ready, just pop into the conversation. We're going to go ahead and get started tonight. What an episode that was. I mean, wasn't that fantastic? I loved it. French Revolution and all these famous people and the architecture, the whole thing was just fantastic. So, Tammy, let's talk a little bit about, we'll start with you. What do you want to, overall impressions on the episode?
You know, it was a little bit slow getting into it, and I kept waiting for it to pick up because I knew if it was going to be the last episode of the season, it would have to be great. But as soon as we got into France, into Paris, it was really, really exciting. I mean, to have an ancestor in the middle of all these circles and such, you know, a rarefied elite class of architects, it was really just a great story.
Beth, I'm just going to ask can you mute yourself when you're not talking for us? So, because otherwise it echoes in the background.
Okay, I just muted my TV.
Okay.
Maybe that was it.
Well, it was a double link of what Tammy was saying, and I can hear myself. Yep. So when you're not talking, just mute your microphone for us in the upper right-hand corner.
Okay, I'm just figuring it out.
Yep. Very good.
Yep.
Okay, so Shannon, what about you? What did you think about the episode?
I really enjoyed it. I thought the episode, the article for the yellow fever, the going through New Orleans, and then back to France was really interesting. I kept waiting for a Creole connection to come in.
Right?
I love New Orleans. It's a wonderful place to visit. It was a sad discovery about the steamboat accident. Steamboats have a little bit of a fascination for me. I've discovered some of my husband's ancestors who worked on them, so I was interested to watch him ride down the river and all that kind of stuff.
That's
It was fun.
Yeah, it was a good one. Sarah, can we hear you yet? No, I don't think so. Michelle?
Okay, we're going to try this. Can you hear me?
Yeah, welcome. Excellent. So what did you think of our episode this evening?
I thought it was excellent. Considering I missed the first half because I was on the bus coming home from New York City, I thought catching the last half hour was fantastic. I mean, just the royal connection was very interesting and a very big surprise, a great way to end it.
Excellent. Yeah, me too. Laura, what about you? Are you on? No, not yet. And I have Judy in here, but I don't see her camera. I don't know if you can hear me, Judy, but if you can work on maybe getting the live feed on your camera, that would be great. Cheryl, how about you? Are you able to speak with us this evening? And we actually still can't hear you, Cheryl, so we will come back to you. And it looks like Beth's little boy is on the camera with us, so hopefully Beth knows about that because this is being live streamed to YouTube. So I don't know if I would be okay with my little one being live streamed on YouTube. So, all right, so let's just keep the conversation rolling. Terry, stop laughing. He is cute though, isn't he?
I'm happy mine are in bed.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Hopefully mine is too. I guess I should be more quiet. I'm not used to my office being right next to her room anymore. So I think one of my favorite lines from this episode was towards the beginning when he said, "I come from helpful people." And that was right after he discovered that he had 3 generations in Louisiana, which was a surprise to him. So that was kind of one of the first notes that I made that I really reacted to. What did you guys think about? He seemed so determined to get to France and then was so pleasantly surprised about his presence in Louisiana.
I thought it was fascinating that he got the number 55 from the Tulane Medical School. That would have impressed me, and I would have been honored to have an ancestor who was early into the medical profession. Many people who follow my blog know that my mother's a doctor, so the medical field has always held a fascination for me. And helpful people, that was just a line. It's having scoundrels and black sheeps is always fun finding, but the helpful people, the doctors, the people who care, that's always wonderful too.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought it was actually rather touching. Tammy?
You know, what I really liked about it was he clearly was reacting on a personal level to everything that he was learning about. I mean, I liked that line about the helpful people. I liked how he really sort of felt the sense of loss when there was that steamboat accident, that, it wasn't just, oh, this tragic thing for my family, but, oh, the good that he could have done in the world. We had that one article that he had published and what he was able to do in his area when there was a yellow fever epidemic. Clearly there was a lot more that he could have done in that community had he lived long enough to be able to be helpful. It seems a shame that somebody who was such a pioneer in the field at a time when they needed those pioneers wasn't able to do all of his life's work.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually did admittedly search JSTOR for a couple minutes to see if I could find the article, and I failed, but I haven't given up. So we'll see how that goes. Anybody else want to chime in on this? Beth, what about you? No?
Oh, I had to find the microphone button.
That's
I'm
okay.
sure you've all got to see my little guy.
Yes, he's
putting my daughter to bed. He just wants to get in the picture.
Yeah.
He's gonna say hi. Hi. I thought the episode was good. I mean,
I thought the episode was very good.
That boy needs to go to bed. I just agree with what you've all said, that Jim was very into the episode, and he just seemed very real, and just, I don't have much to add, I guess.
Sure. So let's go ahead and move on, because Shannon hit on it for a second, the mention of him being the 55th graduate of the medical school. And Beth, if you want to go ahead and, did we lose her? Or did we lose everybody?
I Something came up called Open Capture on my laptop.
Yeah.
Right, on mine as well.
Little technical error. Okay. But we can all hear each other still, right? So that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Okay, everybody's popping back in. Good. Well, that was weird. All right, new things happen with Google Plus every week. So what was I talking about? The 55th graduate of his medical school, which was actually very impressive, of course. So I'm wondering if anybody's come across anything like that in their personal research.
You know, I haven't found any of the records to quite prove it, but it's the stories that my father's family are that many of the women were amongst the first female graduates of the schools that they went to. You know, watching that episode really makes me want to follow up on that lead.
Right.
Yeah, I never realized how, you know, that there really could be a lot of university records that survive that can prove that those stories are actually true and not just stories.
I have to say I want to do some research. I know my husband's grandmother was one of the first women accepted at Johns Hopkins Medical School, and she actually didn't go. She decided to get married instead. She had a chemistry degree. So I would be interested to see what kind of records, if any, there would be for any people even just being accepted to the school.
Right. Yeah, I have a few people on my a collateral line that all went to the same university in Ohio, and I was able to contact their archives office. It's a fairly small school, and they didn't really send me their records, but they did send photographs. Both of the guys were on sports teams and that kind of thing, so I have like a baseball team picture and a basketball team picture, and that's all been really, really fun to play with. Anybody else have any kind of college or significant milestone like that in the early life of their ancestor? Not seeing anybody like, oh, maybe. Michelle, go ahead. We can't hear you again. There we go. I don't know. Is it just me or can I? You're going in and out quite a bit, Michelle.
Good.
Okay.
I know. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Better?
Commercial.
Okay. I know. I was just thinking that. Actually, my husband's line, and it actually is funny with tonight's commercial, tonight's episode, was that his fifth great-grandfather attended the University of Pennsylvania, Benjamin Franklin William, the contemporaries, and his father was actually a very close friend of Ben Franklin. So I was very interested in that connection because of our connection to Ben Franklin.
Sure. Yeah, that's fascinating. I'm going to just interrupt really quick. Terri, we have some people who are asking on Twitter for the link to the YouTube channel. If you could send that out just one more time to make sure people can get it. I'd appreciate it. All right, so very good.
I'm sorry, Jen, you said Twitter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
I don't have I have some college, but I also have a whole bunch of my great-great-grandmother's family. A lot of females went to the Clinton Liberal Institute, and I inherited a lot of their papers and newspapers and college catalogs for them, which is very, very interesting, and I posted that on my website for people to use.
That's fantastic. Yeah, the women's schools are actually really interesting, and you reminded me, Sarah, that I have a couple of people that both went to a women's college, and my sister almost went there, and I will remember the name really soon, and I will shout it out and interrupt somebody. But yeah, it's really interesting to track those records down because the women's colleges, I have found, at least in my personal research, they were better record keepers in a lot of cases. So there was a lot more personal information in their college files than in the guys I talked about earlier.
That's very true, having been to a women's college and a one. It's all about becoming part of the cult. In a good way, but...
Well, at least you're willing to admit it. That's good.
That's right, exactly. The first step.
Right. Where have you been all season? You're funny.
Yes.
So what about the irony between the fact that his paper got published in 1854 and then he died just a few months later? Any kind of tragic, ironic stories that you can share with us, or research tips? Come on, someone's got to have something.
Oh, you're stumping us tonight, Jen.
I know, I'm working on it. You guys have been really making these chats really successful, which is great, but now I have to try and challenge you a little.
Man, you've really stumped me.
Tammy?
It's just not research that I've done a ton of. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, like I said before, it's clear he was just sort of at the beginnings of what he could have done in his career. You know, and it was nice that Jim was able to touch upon that and, you know, do the math and get his age and really kind of think about, you know, what that moment was that, you know, and the fact that the town honored him. I mean, it just goes to show that all the people around him knew that this was a person who really had a lot of potential in life, and it was just snuffed out too early.
I love the fact that he stopped every time to figure out how old the ancestor in question was. That just, that was fantastic.
He was just such a fabulous guest in that way. I mean, he really was just thoughtful in a really, really special way. I mean, you know, there have been good guests this season, and there have been, you know, not as good guests, but he really clearly had like a special level of thoughtfulness when it came to everything that he was learning.
Yeah.
His French accent was terrible, though. I'm surprised he hasn't been forced to have like diction training for what he's doing. His French accent was horrific.
That's funny. So let's talk about his emotional reaction again, because that's how I usually start, but I didn't do it this week. So what did we think about him as a featured celebrity?
Oh, I think he was as good, if not as better than most of the actors, the celebrities that they have had on this season. I really liked the fact that he was engaged. He was so polite, too.
Yeah.
Yes. Thoughtful, asked questions. He seemed to be really, really interested. And I honestly think that helps make the show go better, because if you're just sitting there like a wet blanket, it's not as entertaining, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's very true.
Well, and it was nice having, when he goes through and says, you know, I'm 40, this person was 40, compared to when we had, you know, guests that you're like, oh, I can sort of imagine that. It seems like he was able to sort of immerse himself into the experience more than some of the others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would. And Terry says that it was so refreshing, and I'm assuming she's referring to him because she is muted tonight. Right, Terry? I'm going to pick on you a little bit because you can't pick back. This is like a golden opportunity right here. Cheryl, what about you? Did you have any comments at all that you wanted to share with us about the show so far? Uh-oh, we still can't hear you, Cheryl. So sorry. We will keep trying. And Laura, did you want to type anything in? You're good? You're just watching tonight? All right. Okay, you're going to type. Excellent. Good. Terry's talking about his politeness and how refreshing that was. So that was really nice to see. And I love the fact that we had one of our IDG folks on as a researcher tonight. She's written a couple articles for us. Right, Terry? I'm looking at you. Judy, yes, thank you for reminding me. And Cheryl, I think it sounds like you're back. Can you try to talk for me?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, wonderful.
Hey. Okay. I really like the fact that it shows how easily you can lose track of your ancestors. Mm-hmm. Like just in a couple generations, where he grew up in Texas and he had no idea that he had roots in New Orleans.
Right. Yeah, that was interesting. And what was the quote that kept going around? Lost in the document trail. That was a fantastic one. I really like that line as well. And Terry, thanks for reminding me that Judy is on our panel, but for whatever reason we can't see her camera. She's right in the middle there. And it's too bad she can't join us, because it's always fun to have researchers from the shows on the panel with us. All right, so, and she is saying most of East Texas has roots in Louisiana. Thanks, Judy. And if you have any kind of hints or tricks that you want to share with us tonight, Judy, please feel free to type them in and we'll try to relay those as efficiently as we can. My phone is exploding. Sorry about that. So what other thoughts do you have about the episode tonight? Are we ready to move on?
Well, I was going to say how you were talking about how he made the comment how easy it was to lose track of where you're from. I have commented several times in my personal blog and when I wrote as the Family Tree first blogger for Family Tree magazine that I was born and raised in Indiana. Didn't we all always come from Indiana? And until I started, delving further, it was a shock to me when I discovered, I live in Virginia now and 20 miles down the road is where my family came from.
Wow.
Everybody froze.
Did her volume cut out for everybody else?
It cut off for me, yeah.
Okay. So sorry,
Yes.
Shannon, we lost you there. And she's gone, isn't she? Well, what a shame.
Yeah, she disappeared.
She disappeared.
Oh, I see her. I see her waving into the camera.
Oh, there she is. You're back. My goodness, what an evening we're having. Fantastic. Yeah, the Lost in the Document Trail really, I think that was probably one of the biggest hits that we saw on Twitter tonight for sure during Gen Chat. That was a real popular one. Any other comments?
It was realistic. I mean, that's what happens. You're on the hunt for a line, and even, all the king's men and all the professionals can't make the documents appear to get you. In some ways, that was like the most real of all the genealogy moments.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and it is quite apt considering the later relationship with the king. Yeah.
There was a king after all.
Yeah, very well done, Tammy. Nice. Yeah, and it actually, going back to what Shannon was saying, that when we moved to Colorado, my sister lived here, but we were dead set on the idea that we were the only people ever to live in Colorado in our family, and actually have realized since then that I had an ancestor on my mom's side that is buried in my sister's town. So,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so we're not the first people in Colorado, actually.
I'm laughing because when I moved to New York, I really thought that I was the first generation of my family in New York City, and I took a lot of pride that, that not a single line of my family did the typical, immigrate from Russia, settle in the Lower East Side thing, and it turned out that that was not the case at all, that there were some lines that spent some time in New York before moving on to Philadelphia or Pittsburgh, which is where I knew everybody to be from. And I was so disappointed that my whole sort of story that I had crafted, that I was all Pennsylvania, nothing generic, that turned out to be totally not true at all.
Yeah. So Shannon, you're saying most of your family's from Virginia and Maryland, and that shocked you. Can you talk yet? No.
No.
I can't hear you. Yeah. All right. Very good. And then Laura, you had something you wanted to mention about your great-grandmother? Oh, right. But we can't hear you either. Okay, so she's saying, I have a great-grandmother with no documentation from 5 years of age to adulthood. No clue where she was or what she was doing. Really? She was gone from the age of 5 to adulthood? That's incredible. Wow. Well, good luck with that, Laura.
Wow.
I'm not really sure what else to say.
At least you have her at age 5, so she didn't come down as an adult from the spaceship.
True.
Right.
I've
got lots of those.
Yeah, lots of those. So, okay, so it's been an exciting season of Who Do You Think You Are? We probably have watched every episode as a group, not necessarily on the Hangouts, but certainly on Twitter and just in our own homes. What's your favorite moment from this season of Who Do You Think You Are? And that is a big question. You have lots of episodes to review in your brain. So I want you to think about that one for a minute, because that's going to come back to you. But think about all of the celebrities that we've seen and the research we've seen done and the places they've been. So think about that for a minute. Your favorite moment of this season of Who Do You Think You Are? Terry's got one. Except Terry can't talk.
Oh, I unmuted myself.
Oh, good, Terry. Thanks.
Honestly, mine was when Chris O'Donnell raised the flag.
Oh, man, you totally took mine.
it was just so very patriotic that it gave me goosebumps, and I totally want to go there.
Yeah, Sarah, now you have to think of another one. That was a good moment. I enjoyed that as well. And as one of our regular Gen Chatters, Kale Liam Hobbs, actually he's our bartender on Gen Chat. He's fantastic. He's saying 8 wonderful stories, each more revealing than previous. How will you top these 10 more times next year?
Wow.
And that's very true. They did announce today that Who Do You Think You Are will have season 2 on TLC, and there will be 10 episodes next year instead of 8. So that's exciting. So who else has a favorite moment?
I'll chime in. My favorite moment was when Zooey Deschanel Zoe, however you pronounce her name, was standing on the farm and was reading. Sorry, am I getting feedback again?
Yeah, no, you're. I think it's Michelle has her microphone on. Maybe. Okay. Go ahead, Tammy.
Sorry, it's hard when you're hearing yourself talking back to you at the same time. So my favorite moment was when she was standing in the field and was reading probably one of the coolest primary source documents that we saw in the entire season of exactly what had happened in that fight and how they snuck out the 2 men and like they were gentlemen callers, and how they they got the letter arrived in Canada. That whole moment where she was standing there and reading this account that really just came to life. You could almost see it happening there. That for me was the most kind of electric moment of the entire season.
Fantastic.
I've got another one.
Okay, Sarah, good.
I really liked the moment with Chelsea Handler on the beach with the World War II veteran, talking about coming onto the beach and seeing the German soldiers that he was fighting against. I thought that was very poignant.
Yep. Very good, yes, very much so. And Shannon is saying, I have to admit, I loved how Christina Applegate and her father placed a headstone. And yes, that was actually going to be one of my moments as well, Shannon. Now I have to think of another one. Thank you very much.
Yes, I cried with that one.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Cheryl, what about you? Do you have a favorite moment?
I think that was mine too, where she was able to answer all those questions for her father and give him a history.
Mm-hmm.
I think I also like the part where they lost him in New England. I don't remember which episode. They lost him in New England, but found, and he had looked like he had deserted his family to go back to England, and he had left the 2 kids in New England, and then found out that he got involved with fighting in his town and all of those different things. And we don't know what the other letters were in correspondence, that he didn't really desert his family, but if you're just looking at the records, you wouldn't know that if you didn't dig deeper. Right. So I think that was a reminder to look deeper and not assume.
Not stop.
Well, and also to examine your own biases, because we had talked on Gen Chatter on the after show where, talking about we thought that he was a bad guy.
Right.
And Cindy said that too. I thought he was a bad guy and had left his family, and no, that's not really probably the case.
Right, exactly, yep. And Shannon is talking about Cindy doing the live tweeting during her episode for Gen Chat, which was absolutely phenomenal, I will admit. I was a little excited that night to have her Gen Chat with us. That was pretty cool. And Beth, that was what was one of your favorite moments as well?
Yes, that was what I was going to say.
So now you have to think of another one too.
Oh, okay.
We can only use the same one once. Michelle, did you have a favorite moment from the season?
I asked the Christina Applegate, the gravesite of when her.
That's right. Sorry, there are a lot more people on the panel than I am used to. So.
I know the cemetery.
I don't know how dear Myrtle necessarily keeps up with all these people on the panel every week.
No, that was one of my favorite.
Yeah. Excellent. And then Judy, I'm waiting for you to type some comments to tell me what your favorite moment was.
That's why she has
Russ. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. All right, Beth is ready. She's got another one. What's your moment, Beth?
Okay, well, from Kelly Clarkson's episode, she found that book from Ohio, and I want that book because I think I have ancestors in the same county she does. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool for me.
Yeah, that was cool. And actually, my favorite moment, I think, was from Kelly Clarkson's episode as well. And Shannon, I'm sorry, Beth, if you could mute your microphone again for me. Okay, fantastic, thanks. It is hard to talk like that, isn't it? Kelly Clarkson, I just can't get over that moment. She's sitting there with Josh Taylor, and she says, "He's a sheriff like Tombstone." I mean, it's not like a genealogical moment, but it was so dang cute, and it was just like it's spontaneous, and it just erupted from her, and that will probably stick with me for a long time. And of course, I do a lot of Western states research, and I've been to Tombstone, so it kind of stuck with me, I guess. But in terms of like the genealogy moments, I actually think tonight's episode was probably some of my favorite pieces. The work that they did going into the church at the end with the architectural history, and they mentioned a couple, not necessarily fraternal societies, but societies, which is always an interest of mine. So tonight was probably some of my favorite moments. What other thoughts do we have on the season as a whole? How did TLC do as a network? And please don't talk about the Honey Boo Boo commercials. We all know they're annoying. But how did TLC do?
I don't know if it was a question of TLC, but I was reading an article that because of the smaller budget this time around, that they really couldn't focus on as many storylines as they did in previous seasons. And I will say that there definitely were some episodes where the story that they were telling was interesting, but it didn't really require an hour to tell it. So from my point of view, there were a few episodes that I think dragged a little bit, that had they had the larger budget and they were able to film more, research more, or what have you, and they had put in 2 or 3 stories instead of just the one, as they had done more often in previous seasons. I think the pacing, at least for me, would have been a little bit more fun.
Yeah. Honestly, you know what? I liked that they were more focused on one story. Yeah, there were some of them that were probably drawn out, but I really liked that they really went in depth into the stories instead of, oh, this guy did this, and then we're jumping back 2 more to see what they did. It just told a better story, I believe.
Shannon saying it's more like the British version this season. And so I'm assuming from that comment,
I agree.
I haven't seen the British version, so they must kind of just focus on one story.
Yeah, occasionally they'll jump multiple generations, but usually it's 1 or 2 very focused, and it's often fairly recent in time as well. They do a lot of World War I, early 20th century. I've seen all the episodes.
Oh, wow.
Well, you're a true fan.
Yeah. We'll say that. True fan. We won't say obsessed or anything.
No, we don't need to say that. Yeah. What about Beth? Do you have any commentary on how TLC did as a network, or the season overall?
I think they did fairly well. I think you can tell they had a little smaller budget, but other than that, I didn't notice much difference. My only comment would be I wondered if my ancestors had met his ancestors, because I have some French doctor ancestors from the 1700s, so that would be interesting to find out.
Yeah, definitely. Reading comments at the same time. Cheryl, what about you?
I think they did good. I like the fact that they spent more time on an individual, because then you could look at a variety of documents instead of just one, and then you jump to the next one and you jump to the next one. It built a better story. It's using newspapers and journals and college and just different things to show how you build that out, instead of just getting the name and dates and then jumping back to the next generation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Sarah, you had an additional comment?
Yeah, I didn't want to jump in, but
No,
I
that's
wanted
fine.
to make sure I got that. A lot more American history this season. rather than a lot of world history or jumping around or only mentioning a little bit of something and then moving on to the next thing. So I think that's good. I know there's some people I know in my particular genealogy posse that were concerned about some of the like that Chris O'Donnell didn't know things that you should know as an American. But I want to know just how much editing they do and tell them how to act.
Yeah, there was actually some conversation about that, and yeah, there's that's come up a couple times, I think. So
yeah.
And I kind of get the feeling that there's quite a bit of editing involved. A lot.
Yeah.
That's just my impression.
There was no Chris O'Donnell episode if as soon as he saw that first document at Smithsonian, he said, "Oh, yeah, the War of 1812, you must have been there when they raised the flag, because that's where it was." I mean,
yeah,
that ends the episode 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, that's true, Tammy, yeah. Yeah, hard to make an episode when you give it away at the beginning, isn't it?
See, that's how I felt about Cindy Crawford's episode when they were like, "Oh, we went back so far, and guess who we got to?" And it was sort of like, well, there's not very many individuals you can get that far back to. So.
Right. Yeah. And Michelle, you were in an episode?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was in season 1. Well, NBC's season 1.
Right.
I think we're going to have to add a little bit of, TLC season 1, NBC season 1, but the Fields episode. So yeah, in 2009 it came out, April 2009.
Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and what it was like?
To sit next to her? Basically, I think, I had the first time in my life I've ever had like sweaty palms and just, I was so nervous. I was stage crew, not on the stage, the drama club in high school. So, but there's a lot of editing. I was basically, my filming was a day and a half, and I was only the first 18 minutes of the episode. So, there's a lot of editing that goes in. There's very little scripting. I think they may have gotten better for the professionals, especially those who haven't been in front of the camera, like Josh has been, he has a little bit more experience in that category.
Right.
The ad-lib is hard because they want you to surprise the celebrity by you can't have a piece of paper with notes in front of you. You just have those documents. If you notice, they're not really working from anything. They just have that, oh, and here's the translation, and here's this. So you have to be constantly thinking of what am I going to say next, and how am I going to phrase the next, revelation to them.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting perspective. We've had a couple of people in the panels that have been involved with the show in some sense as we've been doing this throughout the season, and no one has talked about that piece of information. No one has mentioned that, you have to do it all from memory and kind of you figure it out as you go. It's interesting.
Yeah, I hope they've gotten because they want the true reaction of the celebrity,
sure,
that wow factor, or the sincere wow from, Jim this evening.
Right.
But it is always trying to think of what you're talking about. They ask you a question, and you're thinking of going in one direction, and then they ask you, well, and how old was he, or or what does this mean? It stops the whole thought process, and reading that can be a little tricky.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thanks for sharing that. That's it's an interesting perspective.
Am I cutting
for sure.
out?
A little bit, but it not so much that we can't follow you,
better?
so it's okay. Yeah, it's a little bit better. So we have about 10 minutes left. I'd like to give everybody a chance to just kind of give some last comments. This is your chance to pitch whatever you want to pitch and put out your own personal advertisement, because we always are encouraging of that. We'll start with Tammy and go down the line, because Tammy has practice at this and she doesn't have to think about it.
My brain is kind of on like half pace because I'm getting over a cold. I knew you were going to call on me first, and my brain was like, think of something. I will say that since you said I can do a pitch, I'll give a
Please.
pitch. On Tree Lines, we've been doing recaps of all of the episodes. So if you take a look at the site tomorrow, you'll see a recap of what we saw yesterday and the style that we do our stories with a really cool animated timeline and a kind of storyboard approach. And so if you want to recap the episode and see our particular take on it, I would love if you take a look and read the story there. And it'll give you a sense of what the site can do and how you can present your own family stories, because we can't all be celebrities to be on our own shows to get the work done for us, but for those of us who've made the discoveries, we can share them with our family in a fun way, and I think that's what the Treeline site can do. So come for the recap and stay for your own family.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. I love it. I will re-emphasize that her recaps that she does on Tree Lines are fantastic, and I make sure that I catch them every single week. So yeah, make sure you go to Tree Lines. They're wonderful. I love it. All right,
thanks.
Shannon. You're welcome.
I'm back.
Yay, she can talk again.
Self-promoting time, my least favorite time.
Yeah.
I hope everyone comes out and checks out my blog. For those of you who don't read it currently, it's basically me, my thoughts, my ideas, my research, as well as posting tips and tricks that I find along the way. And of course, read the In-Depth Genealogist magazine, Going In Depth. Check out my articles.
On the 15th of every month.
That's right.
Yes. Shannon writes some great stuff. All right, Sarah, what about you? What do you got for us?
I've got two things. One is for everyone to watch the PBS Genealogy Roadshow. You beat me to it. Particularly the Austin episode. You might see me or my arm. I'm not sure. I was definitely in line of sight of the camera, but who knows how they edited it. And the other thing I want to put out there is, I don't know who our audience is from Texas or from the surrounding areas, but I'm going to be doing 2 lectures at the Texas State Genealogical Society Conference in October, the last day of October and the first day of November, in Round Rock, Texas. Our main speaker is Tom Jones.
Yeah, fantastic.
Wow.
Congratulations for that.
Thank you.
You're doing a presentation on Halloween, huh?
Yeah, well, mine's the day after Halloween.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's
fine. We'll do what is it? All Saints Day? Is that the day after? I forgot now.
2 days.
So yeah.
Yeah, good for you. All right, excellent.
Thanks.
Michelle, what about you? Do you have anything to advertise or share with us?
Okay, well, hopefully the mic is working.
You're good so far.
Am I cutting it? Okay, great. Just my blog, Jersey Roots Genealogy, I'll put the plug in for that. And as well as the Mid-Atlantic Conference in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, the New Jersey and Great Philadelphia area APG chapters are hosting an Ancestor Roadshow as part of the event on Saturday, October 19th. So if anybody's in the Mid-Atlantic area and wants to come, so come out and join us that day.
Excellent. That sounds like a lot of fun. Make sure that you send that to me for Conference Keeper if you haven't already. I'll get it up.
Okay.
Yeah. Laura,
right.
I haven't seen any comments from you, Laura. So, all right. Very good. I haven't seen anything from Judy either. That's me. Cheryl, how about you?
I don't have a blog to plug, but I would say to keep sharing stories, because we get so used to looking at census records and different things, and each episode they really were surprised, like, wow, look what's here, wow. And keep sharing those things and look into the history around those events, not just names and dates.
Yeah, absolutely. Judy did post one comment, or the Louisiana Genealogy Group, and I'm probably going to butcher this website name, so I'm just going to spell it. It's www.lecomite.org, and we will put that on the YouTube comments and the Google Plus page comments and all that, so that will be shared for Judy. Thank you for contributing that, Judy. And then Beth, what about you? What do you have that you want to tell us about?
Well, I just finished attending Family History Expos, the Midwest one in Kearney, Nebraska, and I blogged about that on my blog, which is jeanniebeth.blogspot.com.
Excellent.
And if you need anything Nebraska, just let me know. Big state, but I get over a lot of it. So
very good. So we've got an open invitation for lookups out of Nebraska. That's always nice to have.
That's right.
All right, excellent. Terri, do you want to talk for a couple seconds?
I guess I can.
Okay, very good.
I just want to encourage everybody to continue reading the In-Depth Genealogist, the website, and also going in depth on the 15th of every month. We definitely appreciate all of your comments and so forth on the magazine and on the website. And if you're ever looking for anything in the Midwest, you can find me at findingouurancestors.net.
Excellent. Thanks, Terri. That's it, right? Yeah. Okay. So, oh, Beth, it's the Eastern Midwest. Okay. Very good. So I will go ahead and just plug myself for a minute. I'm in Colorado. I do Colorado research with Ancestral Journeys, of course, the In-Depth Genealogist, and my site, Conference Keeper. So if you have any events that you want the public to be aware of, please send them to me via conferencekeeper.net. Be more than happy to post that and advertise here on my social media sites. That's all for free. And I just wanted to say it's been a great season. It's been a lot of fun doing these hangouts. It's been a real pleasure to get to know some of you pretty dang well and to meet some of you for the first time. And I'm really appreciative of the people that we have on the YouTube side that watch every week and comment with us and exchange ideas and suggestions. It's fantastic. So this has been a great opportunity for the In-Depth Genealogist and for Conference Keeper. We've loved doing it. We had thought that we were going to do Genealogy Roadshow as well. But due to a variety of reasons, we've decided not to commit to that at this point. So if anybody else wants to pick up Genealogy Roadshow, I guess it's available for you to do. Anyway, so I think that's about it. Our hour's just about up. Does anybody have any last remarks?
Thank you for doing these.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. Thank you so much.
Very welcome. It's been a lot of fun. Shannon.
I was going to say, I have a lot of people in the area that I'm in who don't necessarily get a chance to watch it live, but tomorrow morning they will be here and they will be watching us and enjoy every minute of it. So know that you're appreciated.
Good. Well, thanks. Thanks for that, actually. I really appreciate that. They are all, of course, on our YouTube channel for the In-Depth Genealogist, so you can watch them whenever you want. And we've had some really interesting conversations with some really intelligent people, so lots of good resources and techniques that have been discussed. So I think that's it. Anybody else? Raise your hands. Going once, going twice. All right, very good. Thank you all so much for joining us on our Who Do You Think You Are After the Show with Jim Parsons. It's been a fun season, and hopefully we'll be back next year. Have a good night.